The Fall Guy is out in theaters this weekend, but will it stick the landing or is it going to crash and burn? A new See It or Skip It starts right now.
See it or skip it. See it or skip it. See it or skip it.
Welcome to a new episode of See It or Skip It, where first we're going to be talking about The Fall Guy. This is directed by David Leitch, and it's starring Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt. Ryan Gosling plays a stuntman who's been out of work after an onset injury. Emily Blunt was his girlfriend and now is a big-time movie director, and she needs his help to help finish this movie after the actor has gone missing. Now, this is directed by David Leitch, and if you know him from any of the John Wick films, if you know Deadpool 2, if you know Atomic Blonde, this is a stuntman's dream, and he actually was a stuntman before he was a director. And the whole film is an ode to the stunt community and how hard they work. Anytime that you see these films where somebody's doing some crazy action sequence, except for Tom Cruise, obviously, there's gonna be a stunt person that's replacing that person. And they have not gotten their due credit for quite some time. In fact, a big push has been happening over at the Academy for the Oscars to include best stunts as a category. And hopefully this film helps to move that needle forward, because not only is it a great action movie, but it's also a really great film to start off the summer blockbuster season. Now, first off, the action is incredible. The stunts are real. Some of the stunts that they do, they're actually breaking records in this film that are world records, haven't been broken before. The explosions, the pyrotechnics, everything about this is it's screaming summer blockbuster, and they do such a good job of executing them and making you feel completely immersed inside the story with everything happening all at once. I also really love Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt's chemistry. They have great on-screen chemistry. I love their characters, how they kind of work with each other. I love the supporting cast. Winston Duke, Hannah Waddingham is incredible in this. I love her playing a little more of the don't know if they're a good person or a bad person, but they're great at their job kind of role. And you're not going to be sitting there after an hour and a half thinking, man, is this movie going to end? It's actually a pretty perfect runtime. I like seeing the more behind-the-scenes stuff with Hollywood, particularly how the cast and the crew interact with each other, how filmmaking is done. And they do a really great job of showing what it's like to make a film and everything that goes into that, whether it's the crew, whether it's the stunts, or just even writing a story if you don't even have an ending yet and still are in production. I love all of that. Overall, this is definitely a movie that everybody should go see, and you have to see it in a theater. You're not going to get the same effect as you would if you were going to see this on streaming or something else. I love the nods it has to classic action films, what it's doing to move the needle forward, and really how they pay respect to the stunt community. This is absolutely a see it. You got to check it out. Up next, we have the Pop-Tart movie, directed by Jerry Seinfeld. That's all you really need to know, right? It's about the Pop-Tart and the competing companies with Kellogg's and Post on how to get this product to the market and into consumers' hands, and whoever gets there first is going to get most of the money. Now, to say that this is a biopic or an accurate historical depiction of how this item came to be is pretty laughable. This maybe 5% of this movie actually happened. The rest is just complete nonsense, and I actually had some fun with that. I know a lot of people are already upset that they are taking so many freedoms with that and in deciding to do their own thing, but it kind of reminds me of when they did the Weird Al Yankovic biopic, where it wasn't necessarily a biopic about Weird Al. There were some true aspects, but more or less it was kind of a meta commentary on the films that are being done, like Bohemian Rhapsody or Rocketman. This kind of does that too, but for the corporate style of films, whether it's Tetris, whether it's the Flaming Hot film, it's trying to poke fun at that, and you have the Jerry Seinfeld humor that we've come to expect. I think the comedy works for the most part. It's very much like dad jokes, ham-fisted. There's a lot of puns. It doesn't take itself too seriously, and neither should you. There are a few scenes that I feel go on a little too long in the second act, and I do think there was a miscast here with Amy Schumer. I think there could have been anybody else that would have done that role a little better. And Hugh Grant, who's playing the mascot, Tony the Tiger for Frosted Flakes, he's really hilarious at the beginning, but the way his character arc goes kind of goes into a direction that doesn't seem natural to what the story was. I'm already seeing some critics panning this as possibly the worst film of the year. I really disagree with that. I don't think it's nearly as bad as a lot of critics are saying, but I'm not about to say that this is one that you should rush out to see. So if during the weekend you're on Netflix and you have an hour and a half to spare, this might be one that you can check out and have a good time with, maybe have a couple laughs. But if you don't have a Netflix subscription and want to move over to Disney Plus, May the 4th Be With You is coming up tomorrow, and Star Wars is releasing Tales of the Empire, which is a 6-episode short animation story that is telling the perspective of 2 characters that have been introduced in the past few years in Star Wars television. It's written and directed directed by Dave Filoni, who did the Clone Wars, who's working on the Ahsoka film, and it really has been spearheading most of the creative decisions in this Star Wars future that we have going on right now. And while I love what he's doing and where he's going with those storylines, I feel like Tales of the Empire really oversold what was inside of these shorts that I wish were in it and ended up leaving me pretty disappointed. But it does expand stories of characters that if you've watched the animated series, you really will be interested in. But for me, I'm thinking particularly about the trailers and clips that seem to be alluding to more backstory on some characters that showed up in the cinematic universe, particularly in the prequels. I'm talking about General Grievous. But really, this seems like it's more setup and explanations for future stuff that's coming out and not really doing anything to make me feel like these shows themselves are very good. If you're a fan of the animated shows, this might be one that you might watch. Otherwise, go check out The Phantom Menace that's back in theaters. Hail Jar Jar. And finally, is the rom-com back? The Idea of You is out now and on Prime Video and stars Anne Hathaway, who's a 40-year-old single mom who's unexpectedly caught in a romance with 24-year-old Hayes Campbell, the lead singer of August Moon and the hottest boy band on the planet. As their relationship begins to blossom, so do the controversies surrounding them, whether it be the age difference, whether it be famous versus non-famous, and what that does to somebody that's not used to being in the spotlight, and what it does to their family that are affected by it. But you also get a pretty touching romantic story between the two leads. Hayes Campbell, who's played by Nicholas Galitzine, and I think is pretty well acted in this. I think his chemistry with Anne Hathaway is really good. And I did buy their romance as being realistic, grounded, and something that if you're watching, you're not thinking, oh, this is preposterous, there's no way that this could happen. The director, Michael Showalter, does a good job of digging into the true emotions of both these characters and really going into the nuances of their relationship and exploring that in truthful ways that I think work well. Where it started to dwindle for me was when it went into the third act. That feels like it just keeps going, and I don't know if necessarily the writing was very well done. Honestly, I think that both of the leads could have just improvised the entire ending of this, and it would have sounded just as good, if not even better. If you're interested in seeing Anne Hathaway, which, I mean, who wouldn't? She's one of the best actresses of our generation, and she really does shine in this. I would say give it a C, but for me, it probably isn't one I'm going to watch again. So that's all for this See It or Skip It. Make sure that you are following me on all social media and following this on abc4.com. Click the shows tab and then go to See It or Skip It to check out more interviews, reviews, and news. And next week, it is Apedom. We're going to be talking Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and I have so much fun stuff to post next week. We've got interviews with the cast and crew. I was able to work with the movement coordinator to be an ape, and everything about that was just mind-blowing. Thank you so much as always for watching, and I will see you at the next review.
See it or skip it. See it or skip it. See it or skip it.